A dramatic, breaking news-style scene. The camera slowly zooms into the grand interior of the UK Parliament, filled with tense silence. The lighting is cinematic, high contrast, with slow panning shots across shocked lawmakers. Ambient suspense music builds quietly. The narrator speaks with deep, serious intensity. Just moments ago, King Charles delivered a statement inside Parliament that has left the entire nation stunned. No one expected the monarch to intervene directly. But today, everything changed. As Prime Minister Keir Starmer stood at the front, confident and composed, the king rose with steady authority. His words were sharp, precise, and historic. The room froze. Advisors stopped breathing. Members of Parliament exchanged bewildered glances. Cameras flashed. Starmer was left with nothing to say, completely speechless on live broadcast. This was not just a royal address. This was a message. A warning. A turning point for Britain. The balance of power just shifted, and the country may never be the same again. Slow, cinematic zoom out as the scene fades to black with dramatic echo. Cut to a slow-motion shot of the king lowering his notes, his gaze firm and unshaken. The atmosphere feels heavy, like history is being rewritten in real time. The camera slowly pans across the faces of MPs, shock, disbelief, and quiet panic etched into their expressions. The narrator continues with calm, gripping intensity. What King Charles said wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was controlled, deliberate, and unmistakably authoritative. He spoke of national unity, of leadership, of responsibility, in a time of growing division. And though he never mentioned Starmer by name, every word was aimed like an arrow. The Prime Minister tried to respond, but his voice faltered. His expression tightened. He glanced to his advisors, but none dared move. For the first time, the balance between crown and government was visible. A silent power, old as the throne itself, was now awake. Parliament wasn't just listening, it was witnessing a shift. A reminder that the monarchy still carries weight far beyond ceremony. And outside those walls, millions watched, stunned, unsure what comes next. Fade to a subtle low rumble sound effect. Camera shifts toward crowds outside Buckingham Palace. A wide aerial shot of London appears. Grey skies, crowds gathering outside Buckingham Palace, camera gliding slowly through the city. Tension builds in the soundtrack, soft drums beating like a slow heartbeat. The narrator speaks with deep, steady gravity. Outside, the reactions spread like wildfire. News channels cut to breaking live coverage. Crowds formed in silence, watching screens, listening to every replayed word. Social media exploded. Supporters called it leadership. Critics called it overreach. But everyone agreed on one thing. This moment was unprecedented. The king had spoken not as a symbol, but as a force. And Starmer, a man known for control and strategy, stood exposed. For years, whispers questioned whether the crown still held real influence. Today, those whispers ended. Today, the world saw a monarch remind a nation, power does not disappear, it waits. It watches, and when the moment demands, it speaks. The music swells, the frame fades, leaving only the echo of footsteps in Parliament's halls. Cut to a slow, sweeping shot of the royal crest, lit by a single beam of light. The room is quiet, only the sound of distant echoes. The narrator continues, voice firm and controlled. In the minutes after the king's words, Parliament fell into a silence it had not known in decades. Ministers whispered urgently. Advisors rushed to private rooms. Strategies shattered. And in that silence, something deeper was felt, a realization that authority is not always loud, nor written solely in laws. It can be carried in presence in history, in the weight of a crown passed down through centuries. Starmer remained still, his polished confidence momentarily broken. His response, if one ever comes, must now be calculated, careful, maybe even desperate. Because this was not just a disagreement. It was a public reminder of power. A reminder broadcast to millions. And as that moment replays across every screen in the country, one question grows louder. Who truly leads Britain now? The elected government or the crown that never needed an election? A soft rising orchestral note ends the scene, like a storm about to begin. The camera shifts to the outside world, newspapers hitting the streets, Headlines in bold black ink, news presenters speaking fast, phones vibrating across kitchen tables. A storm of public reaction unfolds. The narrator speaks in a calm, powerful tone. Across the nation, reactions divided sharply. In pubs, homes, and crowded city squares, debates ignited instantly. Some stood proudly, saying the king spoke for the people, speaking truth where politicians would not. Others accused him of crossing a line, of stepping into a battlefield reserved for elected leaders. Yet the one reaction no one expected was silence from Starmer's office. No official statement, no rebuttal, no press conference. Only waiting, watching, calculating. Because every word now matters. Every step could tip support or shatter it. And the king? He returned to the palace without fanfare, without triumph, simply steady, silent, and certain, as if he already knew the impact his words would unleash. And now, the nation stands on the edge, not of tradition versus progress, but of identity itself. What kind of country will Britain be tomorrow? The music deepens, the feeling of history turning a page. The scene transitions to crowds gathering in major cities: London, Manchester, Edinburgh. Aerial shots show thousands standing still, holding flags, watching giant screens as news anchors replay the king's words. The soundscape is heavy, thundering drums, slow and deep. The narrator speaks with measured intensity. Within hours, the streets became a stage. Voices rose, not in chaos, but in anticipation. Some raised portraits of the king, calling his words courage. Others carried signs demanding the government respond. The media turned the moment into a national reckoning. Panelists debated constitutional limits. Analysts warned of a political fracture not seen in more than half a century. And yet, through all the noise, one truth echoed louder than the rest: silence from the Prime Minister's chair. No explanation. No defense. No direction. It was as though the country had paused mid-breath, waiting for the next move. A move that could unite or divide forever. And as the crowds grew, one sentiment spread. This is no longer just a speech. This is the beginning of something far bigger. Something that will test loyalty, identity, and the very foundation of power itself. The music holds, like the world is holding its breath. Cut to dimly lit government offices, late at night. Papers scattered. Advisors speaking in hushed, urgent tones. The narrator's voice is low and controlled, building tension. Behind closed doors, the government moved into crisis mode. Phones rang without pause. Senior ministers were called into emergency briefings. Every advisor had the same question: how do you respond to a monarch who has just changed the national conversation? Some urged Starmer to confront the king directly, to reclaim authority. Others warned that challenging the crown could ignite a political firestorm too large to contain. The Prime Minister sat at the head of the table, silent, calculating. His expression was no longer confident, but weighted, as though he understood that whatever decision he makes next will define his entire legacy. Meanwhile, in Buckingham Palace, the mood was entirely different. Calm. Controlled. Advisors spoke softly. The king listened, patient and composed. No panic. No urgency. Only certainty. Two centers of power, one rattled, one steady, now stood in quiet opposition. And the whole nation could feel the tension tightening, like a storm gathering pressure over the sea. The music rises slowly, like thunder rolling in the distance.